What if you could unlock your inner genius with just a simple trick? Well, today, we're unpacking the wild story behind a product that claims you can do just that. And believe it or not, it all starts with a secret supposedly found inside Albert Einstein's brain. Let's dig in.
So, the whole idea kicks off with a question I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. Why are some people just super smart? They seem to breeze through challenges, succeeding at everything, while a lot of us are just trying to keep our heads above water. What's their secret?
Now, according to the narrative we're deconstructing today, the answer has nothing to do with your IQ or some kind of natural-born talent. Nope. The story says the answer is actually tied to one of the weirdest, most bizarre events in the entire history of science.
And that brings us right here, to the first chapter of this whole saga, the shocking and very true story of Einstein's stolen brain. And yeah, you heard me right.
The source material calls it a science crime, and that's a pretty good description. See, when Einstein died back in 1955, the pathologist doing the autopsy, a guy named Thomas Harvey, secretly, he stole the brain. He literally took it home with him, convinced he could figure out the secret to genius.
And what happened next? Well, for 40 years, it was a total mystery. The brain basically just vanished, and for decades, nobody in the public or even the scientific world really knew where it was.
After the brain was taken and sliced up in 1955, it went on this incredibly bizarre journey. The story goes that these pieces were hidden in basements and even transported in the trunk of a car for 4 decades before neuroscientists could finally get their hands on them to study.
So after all that, what did they find? What was the big secret? This is where the story zeroes in on a really specific scientific discovery, something the source material calls the genius bridge.
Okay, so the first finding was a total shocker. You'd think a genius like Einstein would have a massive brain, right? Bigger than average? Well, it turns out the opposite was true. According to the research cited in the source, his brain was actually 15% smaller than the average brain. How crazy is that? So, if it wasn't the size, then what was it? Well, the source points to one specific part, the corpus callosum. You can think of it like a superhighway of nerves that connects the logical left side of your brain with the creative right side. And the big claim here is that in Einstein's brain, this genius bridge was way thicker and more developed than in most people.
Okay, so how did it supposedly get so strong? The theory presented is pretty fascinating. It all comes down to his lifelong passion for playing the violin. See, an activity like that forces both the logical and creative parts of your brain to work together constantly. The idea is that decades of doing this literally built up that neural bridge, making it stronger and faster.
And that insight is the key. This is where the story pivots from history to a product. The creator's mission was basically to figure out how to get the benefits of that super-connected brain, but, without having to practice violin for 50 years.
The man behind this idea is Dr. Orson McAcoyd, who's identified in the source as a neuroscientist. His whole quest, as he put it, was to find a shortcut, a way to give regular people access to that same kind of enhanced brain function.
I mean, just think about the time commitment. For Einstein, the source really emphasizes this. Achieving that powerful brain took decades of disciplined daily violin practice.
The solution Dr. McAcoyd claims to have found condenses all of that work, all of those years, down to just 7 seconds.
So what exactly is this shortcut? The product is called the Neuro Energizer. It's described as a simple audio track that you listen to once a day. The claim is that it uses special sound frequencies to replicate the effect of the violin, strengthening that so-called genius bridge.
All right, so what's the payoff? What does this 7-second method actually promise to do for its users? Well, the claims are pretty significant.
First off, the source builds its case on social proof, stating that over 92,000 people have already used this audio track.
The promised transformations are sweeping. The source uses testimonials to paint a picture, like this one from a user named Kevin, who says he started seeing opportunities he'd always missed, landed a promotion, paid off his debts, and is now saving for his first home. The claims also get into academic performance. Another story features a student named Elliot, who apparently found his memory and focus improved so much that he started acing his exams, saying it was like he unlocked a new level of focus and learning. And a third example focuses on cognitive health. A user named Helen is quoted saying, the method helped her remember names, details, and conversations much better, and that it brought a lot of joy back into her life.
The process itself is presented as incredibly simple. It's just 4 steps. You download the track, put on some headphones, relax for 7 seconds while it plays, and then you're done. You just go about your day.
Finally, the whole narrative leads to the offer. The source lists an original price of almost $300, but it's marked down to just $39. And this is all backed by a 60-day full refund guarantee. Plus, they throw in 3 bonus guides. So, to wrap it all up, the list of promised benefits is pretty life-altering. According to the source, users can expect everything from sharper creativity and learning 4 times faster to bigger paychecks, unstoppable confidence, and even stronger relationships.
And all of this brings us back to that one central, provocative question at the heart of this whole narrative. The story we've just unpacked leaves us with this thought. Could a simple, 7-second sound really replicate the neurological effects of a lifetime of genius? That is the core claim of the Einstein Energizer.